How we doing, guys? What's up? Today we're gonna have another different type of video. One of the questions that I get asked is, now that the hobby has grown so much in such a short, significant time, how are people gonna start their collections with that small amount of money and kind of be able to grow it to that multi-thousand, whatever the point they wanted to get it there? So myself, I got in it at a very good time where things were booming. Literally, you could have bought anything and you would have 2, 3, 4, 5, 10x your money on whatever card, because that's just the place where the hobby was at that point. At this more mature space of where the hobby is, those gains on pretty much every single card are no longer there. So the question being, is it possible to grow that $100 into $100,000 collection in the future that you might want it to be? You know, for obvious reasons, Luka Prism PSA 10s aren't going from $70 to $2,000 in a short amount of time. So strategy would be a lot different, and it would definitely be a little more challenging than it was 2 years ago or so. I do believe, and it's not that I do believe, it is 100% possible for that to be the case. To give you guys a little context and preface, because I thought this, I had a couple ideas in my head. How could you achieve this goal? So I asked 4 people that I know have different strategies of getting into and have different experiences with things. So I asked James Cards FC, J&J Sports Cards, Legit Sports Cards, and Koch's Cards. So I appreciate all of them for their viewpoint on this particular matter. A couple things I didn't think of, but for a lot of the things, I mean, I think we were definitely on the money with our theories and thoughts of how to do things quickly and evolve and grow in this specific aspect. I'll start by saying this. I'd say there's a few different techniques and strategies that you could use to get the ball rolling, essentially, and really expand and grow your either equity in cards, your capital, whatever you want to call it, to the next level. So one of those things is a very popular one, which is the dollar box strategy. So at shows, typically dealers have a lot of dollar boxes, quarter boxes, $5 boxes, especially if it's a bigger dealer. Sometimes no one can keep track of every single card in there. So there's 100% gems in certain boxes. I mean, for myself, even typically don't even dollar box as much as I should. At one point, I found a 1 of 1 in a dollar box bin, which won't happen all the time, but I was able to purchase that card for literally $1, and I sold it on eBay in about 2 hours for $100. Just an easy way that you can get it, and you basically 100x'd with pretty much $1 into it, which is kind of insane. So even if it's buy for $1, sell it for $5, those margins really do add up. It's just about the time, putting in that effort to find a decent deal on eBay at the show, know what it can go for on eBay, buy it, list it, sell it, ship it. Essentially, it's just rinse and repeat. So that's one way that you could do it to get things going. So I mean, this next way, it's just nothing special. Like this, the classic buy slightly below comps, flip it for a little more money, make 10-20% off each transaction, and slow grind your way to the top at any scale. That's essentially what the business model of growing your equity into cards is, besides stuff that you might hold long term, like your day-to-day, how you cash flow your business. Essentially, for the most part, pretty self-explanatory. And especially if there's cards that are a lot cheaper, $100 and less, I feel like sometimes dealers, especially if they have a lot of stuff, they will definitely be more than willing to give you a decent deal on it, just because half the time they don't even want to be dealt with that stuff. I guess all depends on the dealer, but more or less there's definitely some dealers that feel that way about certain things. The final strategy is, again, also transfers across all ranges of cards, but it is the buying to grade and sell. This is a very, very useful tactic. The only downside of it, it does lock up a lot of money for not too long, but definitely for a few weeks time. For instance, especially nowadays, there's like 2 good options that you can do with starting with amount of money. Let's just call it $100. You can buy a raw, good looking card or like a rare insert or something, and you can buy it if it's in the price range like $40 to $70 per se. Then you could sub it to SGC for around $30, get it back once with all the shipping, whatever, clears. The whole process would take a couple weeks, and then ideally you would like to, hopefully if it gets a 10, you could 2x or more, or if it gets a 9.5, you can make a little money on that also. You could also do that. PSA now has $50 grading allocation slots, which takes about, I believe, 2 months or so. So it does take a little while after. I mean, right off the bat, if you were starting with $100, I personally wouldn't recommend doing that right off the rip. I would like to build a little more capital and equity into your cash flow, into your, your business model, just because if you're going to tie up your entire $100 into grading it right off the jump, you are essentially, you can't really make any more moves until you sell that and, you know, make the money. Ideally, if you can flip that $100 to 200, 300, 400, then I think that's a great time to start utilizing that method. Personally, I would buy cards at shows that I know could get good deals on and flip them, or I would be doing the dollar box tactic until I reach $500 or so, in my personal opinion, or at least probably $300 to $500. And then if you found good things to grade, that's a perfect opportunity to utilize those as well. So the whole key to these strategies, a lot of it is being able to find value where other people don't necessarily see that value. So for instance, myself, I know soccer pretty well, probably a lot more than the average Joe collector, which is primarily basketball, baseball, football. So therefore, in most cases, have a decent understanding of value in terms of players that are not the most notable ones. I'm probably more up to date with prices because that's kind of the field I play in for the most part, which is, you know, that's a great advantage point. You can't keep track of everything. It's just impossible. Knowing that, one strategy that in finding value in cards, especially at shows, was being up to date on like transfer news and things along those sorts. So for instance, in football, Deshaun Watson recently, he's going to be back playing this year after this whole incident. With that being said, coming into the season, you would expect that news that his cards would come up in price due to the anticipation and, you know, how people have seen him play for previous years, know how he's played really well. Knowing that his cards have been suppressed for a very long time. And then most dealers, if they have had their cards for a long time, they either A, if it's just recent, they don't know about the news yet, or B, there's not accurate pricing to kind of show where his market is at currently. So if you're able to either get like a card like that at those comps, or, you know, slightly below, or whatever the case may be, you're almost, I don't want to say locked in, but you are really putting yourself in a good position to increase your card's value essentially, because especially if it's right at that perfect time, you're timing it really well with the news. Comps haven't actually caught up where the market may be trending, so you're kind of ahead of the game, and that's all just from you staying on top of things. You're doing your due diligence and having that knowledge in a certain industry or in a certain sport or product or whatever the case may be. That kind of goes all across the board. Another technique that was used was kind of essentially just ask dealers with, especially at shows, if you're, let's just say you're working with a little bit of money, trying to just flip some cards at a show, is asking dealers what they're buying essentially. If you ask like a dealer what they're buying, what sort of stuff, you can ideally find that card or, you know, that type of card from other people. If you get it at a good enough deal, you can essentially sell it to that person, basically like having like a pre-buyer in place, which eliminates the risk on your end. You know, you won't be making crazy money, but realistically, if you have a buyer in mind already, it eliminates the risk on your end, which is kind of ideally what you're looking to do in that. And you're going to be able to turn the money over faster. So I'd say from my perspective, I think the most important thing is just you have to be consistent, you know, doing the little things that will make you a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there, and continuing to rotate inventory and turn things over. The one thing that I've learned and still learn, I'd still make the mistake more than I'd like, but the whole thing is to not be greedy, especially if you're in this position. The quicker you can turn over inventory, move product, make your little money here, a little money there, and move on to the next deal, the more money you're going to move in the long term, and the more money you're going to make in the long term. Take your little win here and just move it on to another win, and those wins will continue to pile up and increase. So the whole theme is just don't be greedy, be consistent, do the work every single day, and move on from there. So that's my perspective and my opinion on how to start from $100 in this hobby at this point in time. So I hope you guys have found this video informative. If anyone else has any other thoughts or input to add to this conversation, I would really appreciate that. Shoot a comment on this video or message me on Instagram, Southjerseysportscards. I would love to hear your guys' takes on it. If you guys found this video informative, or if you agreed with this, I'd appreciate it if you left a like, subscribe. Appreciate everyone for watching. Hope you guys have a great day, and peace out.